In our paper, published in Chemical Communications, we report an aging mechanism for deeply supercooled molecular glass. We observed separately the secondary relaxation mechanism and the primary relaxation mechanism, and we used metal formate as our molecular glass former. We showed that the mechanism for the secondary relaxation process is hindered molecular rotation, and we were able to measure the activation energy for this process and showed that as you prepare the glass at lower temperatures, the glass gets less and less stable and molecular rotation gets faster. There are two aspects of this experiment that are particularly useful and different to previous studies. The first is that we used ultra-high vacuum to prepare the samples. That means we were able to grow our samples under cryo conditions using background dosing techniques to prepare very pure materials free from contamination with water. This was particularly useful for the neutron scattering measurements, which we used to measure diffusion in our molecular films, because we were able to grow the solid directly in the path of the beamline. We used magnetically labeled substrates and a polarized neutron beam to get 2 orders of magnitude better resolution than has been achieved before. This allowed us to measure diffusion in the solids close to the glass transition temperature, the primary mechanism. The second aspect is the unique handle we get on these materials from the so-called Spontaelectric Effect. Metal formate is an example of a dipolar molecule that, when condensed to form thin films, spontaneously orients so that all of the molecular dipoles, on average, point in the same direction. This results in a polarization charge on the surface of the film, and we can measure the strength of the polarization charge. What we observed was that over time, this polarization charge decreases, which means that the molecules rotate to begin to point in a different direction. We can measure the rate of this polarization decay as a function of time, and it directly tells us the rate of molecular rotation. So we use this to calculate the activation barrier towards molecular rotation in supercooled films. What we observed was that molecules rotate in 2 separate temperature regimes. Close to the glass transition temperature, molecules rotate much faster. This is accompanied by diffusion, as measured by the neutron scattering measurements. But at very low temperatures, where the film is deeply supercooled, molecules also begin to rotate. This can only be attributed to the secondary relaxation process, and that's the key finding of this paper. In between, films are stable, and there's no rotation and no diffusion. Neutron scattering measurements were performed at the BL4A beamline at the spallation neutron source at the Oak Ridge National Lab in the United States of America. And as I said, our in situ measurement with cryo temperatures at ultra-high vacuum conditions gives us a new type of experiment that we hope to use to study diffusion in a range of molecular materials. The surface potential measurements were recorded at the Astrid synchrotron facility at the Department of Physics and Astronomy at Aarhus University in Denmark.